Vengeance of a Cowboy. Epic Wild West story. Western tales, stories, red dust swirled across the Martian plains, painting the sky in deep shades of orange and copper. The wind howled, carrying with it the faint smell of burnt metal and the distant echoes of mining machinery. Jace Callahan sat tall in his saddle, a sleek black hover bike that hummed softly beneath him. His cybernetic arm glinted in the weak sunlight, the metal polished and scarred from countless battles. He squinted across the barren horizon. Somewhere out there, the gang that had destroyed his life, the Ironhawks, was hiding. And he would find them. Dust Haven lay ahead, a small mining town clinging to the edge of a rocky canyon. Its buildings were a strange mix of old western wood and high-tech neon. Saloon doors swung lazily in the wind, neon signs flickered, and a few miners shuffled down the dusty streets. The town seemed quiet, almost too quiet. That made Jace's instincts scream. Something was off. He pulled his hoverbike to a stop outside the saloon, the low hum of the engine fading as he dismounted. The board above the entrance read, Red Star Saloon, Drinks, Games, and Secrets in glowing letters. He adjusted the strap of his long coat, feeling the weight of his revolver and plasma pistol under it. Jace didn't trust anyone. Not here. Not yet. The saloon smelled of stale beer, fried food, and machinery oil. Miners with cybernetic implants nursed drinks at tables scattered across the room. Jace's sharp eyes scanned the crowd. Most ignored him, but a few glanced his way, suspicion flickering in their gaze. He moved toward the bar. The bartender was a tall man with a mechanical eye that glowed faint red. He polished a glass with a rag that had seen better days. "New face," the bartender said, his voice gravelly. "You don't get many visitors out here." "What brings you to Dust Haven?" "Looking for someone," Jace replied, his voice calm but firm. He didn't reveal too much. "Too many years." The bartender raised an eyebrow, then nodded toward a holographic bounty board behind him. "Check the board. You might find what you're looking for, if you've got the stomach for it." Jace approached the board, the holographic images flickering as he read the names. Most were common criminals, thieves, and corrupt miners. But one name made his blood run cold. Cale Ironhawk, leader of the Ironhawks. He'd heard stories of Cale's cruelty and cunning, but seeing the name here, glowing in neon, made the danger feel real. A shadow moved across the saloon floor. Jace noticed a figure sitting alone in the corner, hood pulled low over their face. Their eyes met his briefly, calculating, and looked away. He felt the prickle of being watched. Whoever it was, they were not friendly. Jace took a seat at the bar. "Coffee. Black," he said. The bartender nodded and poured a steaming cup from a strange device that looked like a cross between a steam engine and a coffee maker. "You hunting the Ironhawks?" he asked carefully, leaning closer. "Be careful." Cale doesn't take kindly to strangers poking around." "I'm aware," Jace said. "I don't plan to be a stranger for long." Outside, the wind picked up, sending a swirl of red dust across the streets. A few miners ducked for cover, shielding their faces. Jace watched the saloon doors. He knew that once he stepped outside, every shadow could hide an enemy. Every alley could be a trap. Hours passed slowly. Jace kept to himself, listening to conversations, noting the people who left too quickly when they saw him. Finally, the hooded figure from the corner stood and approached, boots making no sound on the wooden floor. "You're Jace Callahan," the figure said, their voice low but firm. Jace tensed, his hand brushing against his revolver. "Who wants to know?" "The name's Lyra," the figure said, pulling back her hood. Sparks of neon light danced off the small tech implants in her hair. "I know what you're here for, the Ironhawks." Jace studied her. She was young, but her eyes held a sharp intelligence. "And why are you telling me this?" "Because if you go after them alone, you won't last a day. They've got tech and muscle that make ordinary bounty hunters look like children. You'll need help." Jace considered her words. He hated needing anyone. Trust was dangerous, but the hint of truth in her warning could not be ignored. "All right," he said finally, "but if you double-cross me, I won't hesitate." Wouldn't expect anything less. They left the saloon together, stepping into the Martian dusk. The streets of Dust Haven were eerily quiet now. Broken neon signs flickered, casting shadows that danced along the dusty walls. Jace led the way, eyes sharp for any sign of trouble. A sudden metallic clang echoed from an alley. Jace whirled, revolver drawn. Two figures in dark armor stepped out, plasma pistols raised. They were clearly not ordinary miners. "Looks like you found yourself some company," one of them sneered. Jace didn't answer. He fired, the shot echoing across the canyon walls. The first attacker dropped, but the second rolled to the side, firing a bright green plasma blast that barely missed him. Lyra ducked behind a crate, pulling a small hacking device from her pack. Sparks flew as she jammed the attacker's armor systems. Jace advanced, calm and precise. He fired again, hitting the second attacker square in the chest. The armor sparked and fell apart, leaving the man unconscious. Lyra exhaled, brushing dust from her clothes. "They're getting bolder," she said. "Cale knows you're here." Jace clenched his jaw. "Good. That means I'm close." They continued through the twisting streets until they reached the edge of town. Ahead lay the Martian desert, vast and unforgiving, glowing under the setting sun. Somewhere beyond those dunes, the Ironhawks were moving, plotting, preparing for something. Lyra pointed to a ridge in the distance. "We can follow them from there. The desert is dangerous, but it's our best shot at tracking their movements without being seen." Jace nodded. "Then we ride at first light." Night fell, and Dusthaven disappeared behind them. The wind carried the sound of distant sandstorms, and the Martian moons rose one after another, casting pale light on the red dunes. Jace lay awake that night under the open sky, his revolver close at hand. He thought of the family he had lost, of the life stolen from him by Cale and the Ironhawks. Vengeance was not just a desire, it was a necessity. But as the stars twinkled above, Jace realized something else. The desert was alive in ways he had never imagined. Alien creatures burrowed beneath the sands, their glowing eyes scanning for prey. Every shadow could hide danger. Every step forward was a risk. Yet he would not turn back. The hunt had begun, and Jace Callahan was ready to walk the path of fire. The Ironhawks had taken everything from him, and he would take it all back. One bullet, one duel, one victory at a time. Somewhere in the distance, a faint hum of engines announced movement. Jace's eyes narrowed. The trail had begun, and the cowboy of vengeance rode into the unknown, the first step of a journey that would test every skill, every instinct, and every ounce of his will. The desert night closed around him, but Jace felt no fear, only determination. The Ironhawks would learn soon enough that the frontier had a new sheriff, and he had come for vengeance. The first rays of Martian sun cut across the horizon, painting the desert red and gold. Jace Callahan and Lyra mounted their hover bikes, engines humming softly, blending into the rocky terrain. The dunes stretched endlessly before them, a sea of red sand that shifted with every gust of wind. Somewhere ahead, the Ironhawks moved, and Jace intended to follow their trail without being seen. "Those engines you hear?" Lyra's voice was cautious, carried over the wind to her small communicator. "Not ours. The gang is moving east. They're scouting or maybe transporting something." Jace tightened his grip on the handlebars. "Then we follow. Quiet. Careful." The desert was alive, more dangerous than most imagined. Gigantic sand-burrowing creatures called dune bitters slithered beneath the surface. Their glowing mandibles could pierce steel, and their vibrations could detect movement from miles away. Jace kept a sharp eye on the shifting sands. The hoverbikes floated just above the surface, allowing them to move faster and silently, but the dune biters were clever predators. Hours passed in tense silence. Lyra scanned the horizon with a small scope, her fingers dancing over a holographic interface. "They're stopping up ahead near an old mining outpost. Seems like some kind of transfer is happening. We need to be careful. This place is a trap waiting to happen." Jace nodded. "Then we watch, wait for the right moment. The Hawks make a lot of noise, but we'll catch them." As they neared the outpost, the sound of armored hoverbikes and plasma blasts reached them. Jace signaled Lyra to stop. They crouched behind a rock formation, scanning the area. Below, Ironhawk's soldiers, wearing dark armor with glowing insignias, unloaded crates from a hovering cargo platform. The crates emitted a faint hum, hinting at advanced technology. Lyra frowned. "That's not just weapons, something bigger. Maybe one of those alien artifacts they're rumored to be trading?" Jace's jaw tightened. "Whatever it is, it's dangerous, and it's why Cale is moving so fast." They watched as more Ironhawks arrived, their hoverbikes kicking up clouds of red dust. Jace counted at least a dozen heavily armed men, and more arriving from the cliffs above. They were organized, ruthless, and fully aware of the Martian terrain. A direct fight would be suicide. "Then we do it smart," Jace whispered. "We don't attack yet. We wait until we have the advantage." But the Ironhawks weren't unaware. One of their lookouts, perched atop a cliff with a holographic scope, caught movement behind the rocks. "Hey!" the lookout shouted, aiming a plasma rifle. "Something's moving." Jace reacted instantly. He drew his revolver and fired, hitting the scope of the lookout's rifle. Sparks flew, and the man fell cursing. Lyra ducked behind the rocks, pulling out her hacking device. With a few quick taps, she jammed the platform's navigation controls, causing the cargo hover crates to wobble dangerously. Chaos erupted. The Iron Hawks opened fire, their plasma bolts cutting through the air. Jace and Lyra used the rocks and sparse cover to their advantage, returning fire when necessary. Jace's accuracy was unmatched, each shot precise, calculated. He moved like a shadow, blending with the desert, while Lyra's gadgets disabled enemy systems, giving them an edge. "Keep moving!" Jace shouted. "We need higher ground!" They raced across the desert, the Ironhawks in hot pursuit. Dune-biters shifted beneath the sand, sensing the vibrations. One massive creature erupted through the dunes, its glowing mandibles snapping. The gang's soldiers panicked, scattering as the creature attacked. Jace and Lyra used the chaos to their advantage, weaving through the dunes while the predators dealt with some of the pursuing soldiers. Finally, they reached a ridge overlooking a canyon. From here, they could see the Ironhawks' convoy clearly. At least 20 armored vehicles, all heavily armed, were transporting glowing crates. Jace narrowed his eyes. "That's it. Whatever they have, it's valuable. And dangerous." Lyra tapped her device. "I can try to hack the crates remotely, see what's inside. But it's risky. If Cale notices, he'll come after us personally." Jace considered this. Every instinct screamed danger, but he needed information. "Do it, quick and quiet." Lyra's fingers danced over the device. Holographic symbols and alien runes flickered across her screen. After a tense minute, she smiled. "It's an energy crystal, highly unstable. If weaponized, it could power an army of drones, maybe more. No wonder Cale wants it." Jace's jaw clenched. "Then we can't let him get away with it. We need to follow, see where he's taking it, and find the right moment to strike." The rest of the day passed in tense pursuit. The desert winds howled, carrying red dust that stung the eyes. Every so often, sandstorms forced them to take shelter behind rock formations. The Iron Hawks traveled cautiously, but their confidence was growing. They were moving deeper into uncharted territory, where Jace had no map. As night fell, the Martian moons cast pale light over the dunes. Jace and Lyra set up a temporary camp, hiding their hoverbikes behind a ridge. Lyra prepared food from compact rations while Jace kept watch, revolver and plasma pistol ready. "Do you ever sleep easy?" Lyra asked quietly, breaking the silence. "Not when people like Cale are out there," Jace replied. "Every night is a reminder of what I've lost. And why I can't fail." Lyra nodded, understanding more than she let on. "You've been running on anger for a long time. Just don't let it blind you. You're good, but even the best can make one mistake." Jace said nothing, staring at the horizon where the Ironhawk's distant lights flickered. He thought about the family he had lost, the life stolen from him. Vengeance was not just a desire, it was a purpose. But he had to be smart. One wrong move, and Cale would win without even fighting. The following day, the pursuit continued. They followed the convoy through narrow canyons, over jagged cliffs, and across deserts where the sand seemed endless. Jace's knowledge of Martian terrain was unmatched. He anticipated the gang's moves, predicting where they would turn, where they would rest. But Cale was clever. The Iron Hawk set traps along the way, hidden mines, laser tripwires, and decoys designed to slow anyone pursuing them. Jace and Lyra had to use all their skills to survive. Lyra's hacking device disabled several traps, while Jace's quick reflexes and sharpshooting kept them alive. Midday, they reached a dried-up riverbed, a natural funnel in the desert. The convoy slowed, likely unaware that they were being watched. Jace and Lyra crouched behind rocks, observing. The crates glowed faintly, pulsing with energy. Jace's heart pounded. He knew the artifact's power could change everything. "We'll need a plan if we want to stop them," Jace whispered. "We can't take them head on, not yet. We wait. We watch. And we strike when the odds are in our favor." Lyra nodded, "But we're running out of time." "Cale's moving fast, and he's smart. If we hesitate too long, he'll vanish with the crystal." Jace clenched his cybernetic fist. "Then we move carefully. Every step counts. And when the time comes, we'll hit them where it hurts the most." As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the red desert, Jace felt a mix of determination and unease. The hunt was just beginning. The Iron Hawks were not just dangerous, they were relentless. And Kale was personal. Night fell once again. The Martian moons rose, casting eerie silver light over the dunes. Jace and Lyra hid atop a ridge, watching the convoy rest. Soldiers patrolled the area, unaware of the two shadows above them. Jace whispered, "Tomorrow we make our move. And nothing will stop us." Lyra glanced at him, her eyes reflecting the pale moonlight. "Let's hope we're ready for what comes next." The desert wind carried the faint hum of engines below, the promise of danger, and the thrill of the hunt. Jace tightened his grip on his weapons. The Iron Hawks were clever, but he was faster, smarter, and hungrier than ever. The hunt had begun, and there was no turning back. Somewhere in the distance, the desert seemed to shift and shimmer, hinting at dangers even Jace could not see, but he didn't flinch. Not now. Not ever. The cowboy of vengeance was coming, and the Iron Hawks would soon realize that the hunter was closer than they thought. The red Martian sun had barely risen when Jace and Lyra continued their silent pursuit of the Iron Hawks. The desert stretched endlessly, jagged cliffs and rocky ridges creating a labyrinth that tested every skill Jace had honed over the years. His cybernetic arm ached faintly from the long hours of riding, but he ignored it. There was no time for weakness. Not with Kale so close. Lyra pointed toward a canyon ahead, where the convoy had stopped. "They're unloading the crates," she whispered. "Looks like some kind of processing facility. Could be where they're activating that crystal." Jace's eyes narrowed. The facility was surrounded by high-tech barricades and heavily armed guards. Plasma turrets rotated slowly, scanning the horizon. "That's not just a stash," Jace said. "That's the heart of their operation. If we want to stop Kale, we have to go in there." They crouched behind a ridge, observing. The Iron Hawks moved with precision, soldiers communicating through glowing wrist communicators. Crates pulsed with an eerie green light, hinting at the energy stored within. Jace's pulse quickened. Every second they waited increased the danger, but rushing in blindly would be suicide. Lyra tapped her device. "I can try a remote hack to open one of the crates. Might give us a clue about what we're dealing with." Jace shook his head. "Too risky. If Kale notices, he'll know we're close. We need another way." A sudden movement below caught their attention. Jace tensed. From the shadows of the facility, Kale himself appeared, flanked by two cybernetically enhanced bodyguards. His presence was commanding, his cybernetic eye glowing faint red. Jace's blood ran cold. This was the man who had betrayed him years ago, the man who had killed his family's dreams and left him for dead. Kale's voice carried over the courtyard, calm and sharp. "They've come this far," he said, almost to himself. "Impressive. But they'll learn soon enough. No one challenges the Iron Hawks in lives." Jace's grip tightened on his revolver. The desire for vengeance burned brighter than ever. Lyra looked at him, worry in her eyes. "We need a plan," she said. "We can't take him head on. Not yet." Jace scanned the perimeter. The canyon walls offered narrow paths for infiltration. "We split," he said. "I'll create a distraction, draw them out. You get closer to the crates. Find a way to disable the crystal." Lyra hesitated. "You'll be alone against Kale's forces." Jace gave a grim smile. "Been alone before. Can handle it." With a nod, they executed their plan. Jace slid down the ridge, moving fast and low. The guards below barely noticed him until he fired a warning shot, sending sparks across the courtyard. Chaos erupted immediately. Soldiers scrambled for cover, plasma bolts cutting across the air. Kale's bodyguards charged, their cybernetic enhancements giving them speed and strength beyond normal humans. Jace dodged and rolled, firing precise shots. One guard went down with a well-aimed shot to the chest, but the other closed in quickly. Jace's revolver collided with the guard's wrist-mounted blade, sparks flying as metal clashed. He kicked the guard away, rolling to safety. Meanwhile, Lyra moved silently along a narrow ledge that overlooked the crates. Using her hacking device, she bypassed the security protocols, working quickly to disable the energy crystal. Sweat dripped down her face as alarms began to blare. The crystal pulsed violently, as if reacting to her presence. Jace's voice crackled over her communicator. "Hurry! Kale's coming for me!" From the corner of her eye, Lyra saw Kale descending the steps toward Jace. He moved with unnatural speed, his cybernetic limbs fluid and precise. His red eye glowed with cold calculation. "You should have stayed in the shadows, Callahan," Kale said, raising a plasma blade. "Now you'll pay." Jace didn't hesitate. He dodged the first swing, rolling across the ground. Sparks flew as the blade met his revolver, and the two circled each other like predators. Cale's strength was immense, but Jace relied on speed, skill, and clever use of the environment. He kicked up red dust, blinding Cale momentarily, and fired a shot that grazed Cale's shoulder. The blow enraged Cale, and he lunged forward with even greater force. Jace blocked, rolled, and fired again, but Cale's enhancements made him nearly unstoppable. With a swift strike, Cale knocked Jace to the ground, pinning him. Lyra's hacking attempt succeeded. The crystal's glow dimmed, and a low hum vibrated through the facility. Cale's attention snapped toward the crates. Jace saw his chance. With a surge of adrenaline, he twisted free, kicking Cale back. Plasma bolts flew between them as Jace ran toward Lyra. The facility erupted into chaos. Guards scrambled to protect the crystal. Jace and Lyra moved as one, dodging attacks, using the terrain to their advantage. Lyra accessed the control panel, initiating a shutdown sequence that would deactivate the crystal completely. Cale roared, fury in his voice. "You think this ends here? Callahan!" He charged at them, but Jace fired, striking his leg and slowing him down. Lyra finished the shutdown. The crystal's pulsing stopped, leaving only a faint green glow. Energy from the device flared and then dissipated, rendering the artifact useless. Cale stumbled back and raged. He had lost his prize, and the soldiers around him were in disarray. Jace raised his revolver, aiming carefully. "It's over, Cale." But Cale wasn't done. With a swift motion, he activated a hidden device on his belt, emitting a pulse that disabled Jace's cybernetic arm momentarily. Jace gritted his teeth as his strength faltered. Cale advanced, a predator ready to strike. Lyra grabbed a nearby metal pipe, swinging it at Cale to buy time. Cale deflected it, but the distraction was enough. Jace regained control of his arm and tackled Cale toward the edge of the platform. They struggled, both evenly matched, each move calculated and deadly. Finally, with a powerful push, Jace sent Cale stumbling backward toward a collapsing catwalk. Cale's body twisted in the air as the structure gave way beneath him. Dust and debris filled the canyon as he fell, disappearing into the red haze below. Jace and Lyra watched, breathless, unsure if Cale had survived. Jace's chest heaved. I would be so happy. "Is he gone?" Lyra asked, eyes wide. "Maybe," Jace said, his voice grim. "But for now, the crystal is neutralized. That's what matters." They took a moment to recover. The guards remaining surrendered, realizing their leader's absence and the loss of the artifact. Jace and Lyra tied them up using energy restraints Lyra had brought. The desert winds carried the echoes of the battle, a stark reminder of the dangers that still lurked. Jace looked at the canyon below where Cale had fallen. A part of him wanted to ensure Cale was finished. Another part reminded him of the choice he had made, to stop the cycle of bloodshed, not feed it. Vengeance was powerful, but it came with a cost. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "We did what we came to do. The crystal is safe. That's enough for now." Jace nodded, letting out a long breath. "You're right. But Cale, he's still out there, and one day he'll come back." Lyra glanced at him, concern clear in her eyes. As the Martian sun rose higher, they prepared to leave the facility behind. The desert stretched out endlessly before them, a reminder that the frontier was vast, dangerous, and full of unknown threats. But they had taken the first step in ending the Iron Hawk's reign. Jace mounted his hover bike, checking his weapons. Lyra followed, securing her hacking device. Together, they rode across the desert, the wind in their faces, the red sand swirling around them. The journey was far from over. Cale's fate was uncertain, and the Iron Hawks could rise again. But Jace felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. For the first time since his family's death, he wasn't alone in the fight. He had an ally. He had a plan. And above all, he had purpose. The Martian desert stretched out ahead, endless and unforgiving. But Jace Callahan was no ordinary cowboy. He was a man on a mission, a hunter seeking justice, and a force that the frontier would never forget. The hunt was not over, but the first victory had been won. And Jace knew that whatever came next, he would face it with the same determination, courage, and sharp aim that had carried him this far. Somewhere in the distance, beyond the dunes and cliffs, shadows moved. Cale had survived, or perhaps someone else was watching. The frontier was alive, and it had many secrets yet to reveal. Jace tightened his grip on the hoverbike handles. The desert wind carried the hum of engines and the scent of red dust. The cowboy of vengeance rode onward, ready for whatever dangers lay ahead. The Iron Hawks would rise again, and so would he. The Martian sky burned crimson as Jace Callahan and Lyra rode across the open desert. The wind cut sharply, carrying dust and the distant hum of engines. They had destroyed the crystal facility, but Jace knew the truth deep inside his chest. Cale Ironhawk was not finished. Men like Cale never were. Lyra slowed her hoverbike and raised a hand. "Do you feel that?" she asked. Jace nodded. His instincts screamed danger. The desert ahead looked calm, but calm on Mars was never safe. "He's close," Jace said quietly. Cale wouldn't disappear without striking back. They crested a ridge and saw it. A massive floating mesa hovered above the sand, held up by ancient alien engines built into the rock. Neon lights glowed along its edges. Ships circled it like vultures. The Iron Hawk symbol burned bright against the stone. "That's his last stronghold," Lyra whispered. "If Cale survived the fall, he'll be there." Jace stared at the fortress. Memories flooded his mind. His old life, his family, the betrayal that destroyed everything. He tightened his grip on the controls. "Then this ends today." They moved fast, using the rising dust storm as cover. Lightning flashed across the sky as sand slammed into the mesa's shields. Lyra hacked the outer defenses, creating a narrow opening just wide enough for their bikes. Inside, the fortress felt like an old western town mixed with alien technology. Metal walkways replaced wooden streets. Energy lanterns glowed instead of oil lamps. Ironhawk's soldiers patrolled every corner. Jace dismounted silently. "No turning back," he said. They split up just like before, but this time, it felt different. This time, Jace knew it was the final ride. Lyra slipped toward the control tower, disabling cameras and locking doors behind her. Jace walked straight down the central path, boots echoing loudly. He wanted Cale to know he was here. "Come out, Cale!" Jace shouted. "This ends now." Soldiers poured in from all sides. Jace moved like a storm. He fired with calm precision, using cover, never wasting a shot. The Ironhawks fell back, shocked by his skill and fearlessness. Then the air changed. Slow clapping echoed through the fortress. "Well done, Cowboy," Cale's voice said. "You always were predictable." His body was more machine than man now. One eye glowed red. His armor pulsed with dark energy. He looked powerful and dangerous. "You should have stayed dead," Cale said. Jace raised his revolver. "You should have never crossed me." They circled each other. The storm outside raged harder, lightning striking the floating mesa.
The whole fortress trembled.
Cale smiled. "You still think this is about revenge? This frontier needs order." "I bring strength. You bring fear," Jace replied. "And it ends with you." Cale attacked first. His speed was unreal. Jace barely dodged as a plasma blade sliced past his face. Sparks flew as metal hit metal. Jace fired, but Cale deflected the shots with his armored arm. They crashed into each other, rolling across the platform. Jace felt the weight of every choice he had made, every mile he had ridden, every life lost because of Cale. Cale slammed Jace into a wall. "You could have ruled with me!" he shouted. Jace pushed back, his cybernetic arm whirring. "I don't rule over graves." With a powerful strike, Jace sent Cale stumbling. At the same moment, Lyra's voice came through the communicator. "Jace, I've locked the fortress engines." "This place is going down." Cale heard it too. Panic flashed across his face for the first time. "You think you've won?" he snarled. "We both die here." "No," Jace said calmly. "Only your reign does." They fought one last time at the edge of the mesa. Below them, the desert waited, silent and endless. Lightning framed their silhouettes like an old legend.
Jace stepped aside.
Cale lost his balance. For a single moment, their eyes met. Cale reached out, but Jace did not take his hand. Cale fell. The storm swallowed him, his scream fading into the red dust below. The fortress alarms blared. Lyra ran to Jace's side. "We have minutes before this place crashes." They raced to their bikes as explosions rippled through the mesa. The alien engines failed, one by one. The fortress began to sink. They launched into the storm, flying away as the floating mesa collapsed behind them, smashing into the desert in a fire of light and sand. Silence followed. They landed miles away, watching the dust settle. The Iron Hawk's symbol burned away in the wreckage. It was over. Jace stood quietly, staring at the horizon. The weight he had carried for years finally began to lift. Lyra spoke softly. "What now?" Jace holstered his revolver. "Now the frontier gets a chance to heal." News spread fast across Mars. The Ironhawks were gone, their strongholds destroyed. Towns once ruled by fear began to breathe again. Dusthaven rebuilt. Jace didn't stay. Cowboys like him never did. At dawn, he mounted his hoverbike one last time. Lyra stood beside him. "You could stay," she said. Jace smiled faintly. "Maybe someday, but the frontier is wide. And there's always another trail." He rode off as the sun rose over the red desert, a lone figure against an endless sky, not driven by vengeance anymore, but by justice. And across Mars, people would tell the story of the cowboy who faced the future like the Wild West, of the man who ended an empire, of Jace Callahan, the cowboy of vengeance.